Is that a gray hair? Oh, hi folks. Joey Ricard with TracksiteScenery.com. Welcome back and welcome to 2016. You know, last year we had a great time traveling the country and attending train shows, making new friends, visiting with old, and of course we had a lot of fun making the videos. This year we have a lot in store, so let's get started. That's right, we had a lot of fun with our YouTube channel last year. We created a wide variety of videos with a bunch of different topics, but one video stood out among all the others. The video was about landform and terrain techniques, and I think it was so popular because it showed how a layout goes from bare bench work to virtually finished scenes. In this video, we're going to do something similar, but we're going to take it a step further. I'm going to discuss how we as modelers come up with the scenes that end up on our layouts. But first, the givens and druthers, the considerations that you must take into account when planning your layout. Of course, there's things you can't change, like the model scale and maybe the space you have. Do you design the track layout to fit the scenes, or do you design the scenes to fit the track layout? Trust me when I say that I, of all people, know that sometimes it can be a head-scratching and challenging experience, but either way, you can create what you envision by being creative. My considerations came down to the overall space that was available and the fact that I was modeling Appalachia in O scale. Well, it was narrow gauge and it helped, but as you know, Appalachia is not exactly flat. Yeah, sure, I could have taken the lazy route, slapped a couple backdrops in there, plopped a couple buildings here and there and called it done. It could have looked nice for what it is, but I think you know by now that that's not my style, and it surely wouldn't reflect the area that I'm modeling. The first scene we're going to talk about is a small area over on the left-hand side of the layout. It's about 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet. There's not much room there, so I pretty much knew I was going to have to go vertical, especially if I wanted it to look like the area that I was modeling. That's right, folks, we're not modeling the desert floor here, and as you can see, I created this landform, which was outlined in the previous video called Landform and Terrain Techniques. Again, those old considerations come into play, whether you're modeling something prototypical or something that's just representative. That's what we're doing here. This is representative. And all the structures in this set were scratch built to fit the area where they sit. And absolutely, I could have done this the reverse way. I could have purchased commercially available products, put them together, checked the sizes, and then built the landform according to that. There's not just one way of doing things, and there is no right or wrong. As you can see, I'm making good use of my artist license in this case. I hope that thing doesn't expire anytime soon or I'm going to be up this creek. Oops. Although I had no plans ahead of time and no drawings, this representative scene came out to my liking. I used the world's greatest resource for information and inspiration. That's the internet. Lots of info and pictures. The next scene we're going to take a look at may or may not be prototypical, but either way it was just plain fun. It's also another case of where I envisioned something, but I wasn't sure how it was going to come out. The scene is located on the front right corner of the layout. It's one of those filler scenes that's not rail related, but it's surely an eye catcher and maybe even an ear catcher, and I'll explain that in a minute. Because it's such a small area, I had to wait until I had the bench work, the track, and the base scenery in place. Once all that was done, I could start coming up with ideas. Yeah, there's no secret to this, and it's surely not brain surgery. I just started fooling around, making a couple sketches, and this is what I came up with. I scratch built this small dilapidated shack, and it's definitely representative of old-time Appalachia. Once I put this thing on the layout, I knew I had to build a small speaker and put it inside the shack to play ambient sounds and hillbilly music. Once the shack was in its final resting place, I went ahead and added the much-needed down-home details, like a clothesline, an outhouse, and, well, you get the idea. The third scene we're going to talk about is the Elk River, and it was by far the most challenging scene on the layout. You see, the Elk River runs straight through one of the 30 by 60 modules from front to back, so to make it believable, we have to do something completely different for this. In order to make it truly believable, the scene has to be interactive with the backdrop. Now, in case that doesn't make sense to you, the physical scenery has to blend in with the imagery in the backdrop. It's got to look like the river actually goes somewhere. We can't have a river disappearing into a clump of trees or a hillside now, can we? As I was designing the overall backdrop for the layout and I had it almost complete, I dropped the river element in the backdrop down. This way it would meet the river bottom of the physical scenery. At this point, with a little bit of trial and error, I can create a river that actually looks like what you see in the backdrop, or at least come close. With a little trial and error, experimentation, and patience, you can create believable scenes, and you can even make them fit in spaces you didn't think they would. There's more videos on the way. Please subscribe and share and help grow our hobby. This is Joey Ricard with TrackSideScenery.com. Thanks for watching. See you next time.